Welcome back for another video. I'm Eharbad, a free-to-play endgame player in Raid Shadow Legends, and it is fusion time. Razelvarg. Now, honestly, I haven't really looked too much into the champion. I do know that most of the content creators have got out videos, having done the test server and all that jazz, and I'd recommend looking at their videos for real kind of in-depth opinions and showcases of the champion. All I really will say in this particular video, where we're really going to focus on the fusion guide itself, is that the passive on this champion is extremely unique, and anytime you have the opportunity to pick up a unique champion, it is worth doing it if you have the resources to be able to do so. I would say overall, if you are farming Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss and you have that good supply of shards coming in, then this champion's definitely worth picking up. If you're earlier in the game and you're, say, farming Brutal or maybe Nightmare, and you can do it, but it would kind of be quite a high shard consumption, then it's a little bit more difficult to determine whether it's worth you picking him up or not. And I think at that point, it depends whether you have the rest of your roster in such a state that getting this champion would unlock Ultra Nightmare or not. I think that's going to be quite a significant factor at play there. I personally have not yet decided whether I will go for this champion on the free-to-play challenge account. I'll probably do a update video tomorrow on that account and then kind of talk through my thought process over as to whether I'm going to go for it or not, essentially. But we'll see about that tomorrow. On the main, I'm definitely going to pick up Razelvarg. I don't think he'll necessarily make any of my teams, to be honest. I think for me, on the Hydra side, really interesting champion, but just doesn't quite bring enough to make any of my teams. I think potentially could come into the hard team, but he's not going to enter into the Brutal or Nightmare team. I think if you compare him to, say, for instance, Necmo Thar, who has some similar kind of ideas of abilities, the fact that we're lacking that decrease attack or a decrease speed buff, I just feel like for a Hydra champion, Razelvarg just isn't quite bringing enough. We've got the aura, we've got the passive, we've got the increased speed. Increased accuracy, useful for early to mid game, but less so for end game. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let's jump into the there we go. Let's jump into the fusion plan itself. And I mean, for those of you who've done a number of fusions and have seen a number of my fusion guides, to be honest, this is not going to become to any surprise. Let's be honest, it's a pretty standard looking fusion overall. There's definitely some good parts and some bad parts. Let's just jump into it and just kind of go through it. We have 3 dungeon divers and 3 artifact enhancements. That's quite painful, and all of those will require quite a lot of investment. We know they've increased the point requirements on the dungeon divers recently. Particularly, I'm looking at Dungeon Divers 3, which is a 5-day event. When they've done those in the last few fusions, those have been extremely taxing on your energy. There's also not really anything else to overlap it. I would say there's half a hope that maybe there'll be an overlap with, say, like a Hero's Path event, potentially. I mean, that's kind of a bit of a fingers crossed if you are going for it. So it's definitely a little bit of a watch out on the 3 dungeon divers. 3 artifact enhancements, they have been upping the points on those recently as well. It is a straight silver cost. If you've got the silver to do it, it's really not a problem. If you are short on silver, those could also be quite painful. Now, beyond that, I'm going to really draw attention on the summoning side. We have the 10x and a 2x on Sacreds, which for me is the worst for most players in terms of shard cost on a fusion. Whenever we have this situation where the 2x during the fusion is sacred shards, it makes the overall fusion extremely sacred heavy. Now, with that in mind, and the fact that we've now got visibility on the summon rush, with the epic at 49.25 points. I personally would recommend the majority of players to pick up the copy of the epic in Delaja and actually skip the 2x sacreds. If we look at the kind of two potential paths you could take, if you go for the rare at 2150 points, most likely you'll be pulling 4 sacreds and 150 mysteries. If you go for the epic as well at 49.25, the way I'm looking at it is 185 mysteries, so 35 additional mysteries, 2 void shards, so 2 additional void shards, and 9 sacreds, so an additional 5 sacreds over what it would take me to get the rare. Now, the reality is if we want to get the rare during the 2x sacred, I think it will take more than 5 sacreds. So that's a simple reality. I could do the maths, and in fact, whilst we're on this recording this video, I will go and get the maths involved, because the estimated point value on a 2x sacred event for a sacred shard is about 280 points. I would estimate that they will probably put the rare either at 2,000 points or 2,500. If it's 2,000, that is 8 sacreds. If it's 2,500, that is approximately 9 sacreds. Now, I know I said it was 280 sacreds per point, but this is purely down to rounding. Either way, that is more than 5 sacreds and 2 voids. We also have RNG to consider. And yes, during the champion chase, you could, which will overlap with the 2x sacreds, that is, you could pull past fusions or you could pull mystery shards. So it does slightly depend on your own account situation. But personally, on my own main, I'm going to be pulling for the epic now. I won't be keeping a copy of the epic because I don't think I need it, but at least I have the option to do so if I change my mind. But assuming I don't keep a copy of the epic, I will get to skip the 2x sacred event. And in fact, I could skip all 3 dungeon divers. Now, I'd say, given that that will ultimately use less shards in totality, and the 10x champions on this 10x summon event are actually, for the majority of players, pretty good. Countess Lix is very good, Lady Kimmy is superb, and all the epics are in fact very good if you don't have them already. I think it's a more efficient use of your resources to, in fact, skip the 2x sacreds. The next thing I want to talk about is we have a bit of a weird gap during the Wednesday and Thursday next week, which isn't great for resource management. It does mean that we have a bit of an energy crunch on the first weekend with Dragon Champion Training and Dungeon Divers 1 overlapping, and a potential energy crunch again the following weekend with Champion Training, Fire Knight, and Dungeon Divers 2 all overlapping. So we'll need to consider those quite carefully. And then obviously immediately after that, that energy crunch, we're straight into Clan v Clan, which will actually help somewhat with Dungeon Divers 3, as you'll probably be using additional energy in Clan v Clan. Could be a personal reward one. So there's a good chance you'll be farming a lot of dungeons during that time. So that's another thing to consider. So the real question at this point is, do you have the mental fortitude to do yet another fusion? And that's partly where my consideration as to whether to do it on the free-to-play or not stems from. I will do it on the main account, but do I have the energy to do it on both accounts? And I'm not sure is the answer. So I've got quite a lot of energy here to use. I'm going to be going into Dragon as soon as I've finished this video and farming stage 25 with Theodore, farming food essentially. So I'm at least double dipping between the Dragon event and the Champion Training Tournament. I'm not worrying about the harder dungeons at all during this fusion. Personally, I actually find the reward structure relatively underwhelming on the hard dungeons. So it's not something that I'm particularly fussed about doing. Whilst we've got the overlap with champion training, I'm definitely going to be prioritizing farming up food, particularly in Dragon, where with the solo Theodore, I'm able to farm 4 food concurrently, and that's just much more resource efficient for me. So, as I mentioned, we're going to do 185 mysteries, 2 voids, and 9 sacreds. In this video, I would say let's jump in, do the 2 voids and the 9 sacreds, and then I'll top up with the mystery shards during champion training over the course of the weekend. So we'll get the 2 voids out the way first. I'm really not expecting much. This is on the main account, so there's really, outside of legendaries, there's not a lot that's going to make much difference. But of course, on the sacreds, there's always a chance we actually pull a copy of the epic straight off the bat, which would make the fusion even easier. So as I said, 9 sacreds, 1 down, 8 to go. Spider, decent champion, but I don't need him. Sandlash Survivor, really good champion. Used her a lot during the infancy of the account. Anax, also a pretty solid champion. Doesn't get that much use, mostly because the base stats are actually quite low. But you do have a really nice kind of combination of a weaken, poison with decreased accuracy, which is actually pretty good for Bommel, and then the decreased defense. I think if Anax had a decreased attack, you'd probably see Anax used even more, but it isn't the case. Anyway, 3 down, 6 to go. Decent chance, I'd say, we'll pick up a legendary during the 9 shards, but there's no guarantees. Hope, pretty hopeless, if I'm honest. Even though she's been buffed, she's just not that good. Visionary, just overall quite disappointing. There are a few use cases. I've seen people make use of the A3 for like Dark Elf only dungeons. I think that's now 5 shards, I believe. Am I keeping track? Anyway, 6 shards, Galcut. Overall, I would say, Galcut hits hard, but just a disappointing champion. Doesn't get used. Really needs a rework, to be honest. 7, Lady Annabelle, one of the 10x champions. Really good champion. I've never really used her or built her out myself, but is able to solo Bommel. And I think, between having the increased speed plus the decreased speed and leech on an AoE basis, really could be used as a kind of budget Hydra champion for a lot of early to mid-game accounts. I think she would be a pretty viable option, to be honest. And we do get the legendary. It is a dupe, Basilius Ronas. Actually, quite a decent champion these days. You do have 100% when booked, AoE chance to stun. Does decrease turn meter if the stun's not placed. So I actually just have one at level 50, which I use in Force Attack Secret Room. Really good crowd controller with the A3. The A1 does give you a block buff, and the A2 does hit hard, ignoring quite a lot of things. Increased defense, shield, block damage, and 50% of the target's defense. But obviously, for that to actually work, you need to rank him up to level 60, which I have not bothered doing. I have actually completely lost track of the number of shards that we've actually pulled. So let's go in and have a look. 49.25. We need 1 more sacred, and then the rest will come from mystery shards. We did get a legendary. Oh, we got another legendary. That's kind of astonishing. Another dupe, Drexar Blood Twin. But actually, a really interesting dupe for me to get, because this means, where is it? Demon Spawn. Oh no, it's a triple. I thought it was a new dupe. I was going to say that could be finally the first faction Guardians unlocked. Isn't to be. Drexar is already a dupe, so that is now a triple. Hopefully we'll get one more, because getting the +10 speed on both the Kaimars and both the Duchesses would be very welcome. Anyway, so there we go. I've gone through the Fusion guide. I've given you the ideas of where I'm going to be directing my energy on a daily basis, given you my main thoughts on the Fusion schedule itself, and a little bit of thoughts on the Fusion champion. I think that's pretty much this video. I think we'll just leave it there. I will do a video tomorrow with an update on the free-to-play 2023 challenge account. Had a little bit of time off whilst I was traveling, but have made quite a bit of progress between the last time it was seen. Sorry about that, phone ringing. Yes, I have made a bit of progress since the last time I uploaded a video. So we've got, I think about 3 weeks since I last uploaded, with about 8-9 days where I didn't play. So it's still about 2 weeks worth of progression to go through in the next video or two. So as always, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.